Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome, friends. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 28th to 8th of July, year 2021. I hope everyone is doing well, staying cooler and enjoying the summer all throughout the planet. I'm going to welcome our panelists. Today we are joined by April, who is a Reiki healer, a psychic, and a spiritual teacher. Good evening, April. And after many weeks, we welcome Kelly, our one and only Qigong teacher and spiritual teacher, back. Good to see you, Kelly. It's good to see you. And of course, our incredible Eileen, that's going to keep us streamlined and provide her own insights as well. We actually have had, like, over the past couple of days, between Summer, Lakshmi, and Juliet, we've had questions come in. So I don't have to come up with a creative question. So I'll start off with Juliet's question, and I'm going to paste it in the chat. So this is what Juliet asks, and April, you'll be the first to go. She says, I would love to be reminded of how to deal with unconscious people, especially in families, and how to observe family conflict without losing one's peace. Perhaps karma plays a role here. Thank you.
She wants to be reminded of how to deal with unconscious people. That's the first step is, for me, awareness. It's about maintaining your own energy, maintaining your own space to where you can actually just observe the unconscious people and you practice. You don't get involved, you don't get entangled into the conversation, into the events, into the energy. You just allow it to be. So my mother was very good at creating a lot of drama in my family. Actually, after her death, I found out that she would say something knowing that it would upset. Now, you remember, I have 5 girls and my niece. So we're talking about 6 women, girls, right? So I found out later after her death that she would purposely say something that she knew would trigger one of us. And then she would actually sit back and chuckle. So after she died, one of the son-in-laws said she would say things and she would watch you girls get crazy and she would wink at me and laugh. Right? This is my mother, right? So we were brought up in that environment and we were taught to basically get involved and get upset and get caught up in the drama and, oh my God, how did you say that? And no, I believe that. And I believe this, and insisting on our beliefs being the same as everybody else's beliefs. So what I suggest is that if you take a stance of presence, if you take a stance of stepping back, of being in your own energy, your own body, then you can observe from a distance. You don't have to get emotionally entangled. And you can observe the lower level, the unconscious level, and you can be okay with it because you accept that that's the level that they're at. But you don't allow that to pull you in energetically, emotionally. You don't allow that to pull you in. And she's speaking of family conflict, which is where it's usually the strongest. That's usually the point where you definitely get pulled in. You might be able to ignore the guy at the store or the neighbor, but when it comes to family, that's a more sensitive spot. And karma could play a role as far as, I'm not sure which aspect of karma she's talking about. Is she talking about just the lessons that we learn from other people? And the karma is, this person is actually our spiritual teacher. And again, that brings up the whole theory of, Eileen has mentioned this, and some of our family members are our biggest spiritual teachers. So that could be the karma playing itself out. Definitely. I have some big spiritual teachers in my family. God bless them. And so I'll start here, and I'll let Kelly fill in the gaps, and then we'll see if we answer it.
Thank you so much, April. Beautiful. Eileen, did you want to speak something about unconscious people, especially in families, and how to observe family conflict without losing one's peace?
Well, I noticed that when she asked, she said, how do we deal with unconscious people? And I think noting that is the first key thing. It's like they're unconscious. They're only functioning at their level of consciousness. So accepting them as they are at this present moment would be first. We don't need to judge them or be reactive towards them. We just need to give them acceptance and space to be as they are at this moment. But I do say that a lot, April. I live with my greatest spiritual teachers because it will, like, those things will keep coming up. And the only one that can provide the peace is you. Your peace isn't related to them. So she actually just commented on the post also. I think that karma, I mean, is that while my family members fight with each other and suffer, this is probably their karma and they have to go through that suffering, which is correct. I'm not so versed on the idea of karma, but I would say that they have to go through that suffering for themselves. We have to focus on our own self, not suffering, bringing our own presence and our own peace. And in time, it really does ripple out, but it does take time.
Thank you, Eileen. I think both of you said the same thing. April said the same thing, that it requires a lot of presence, right? To observe the unconsciousness and be in presence, like be in your body, learn how to be in your body, like let the drama happen externally. Right, April? That's what you're saying. Let the drama happen out there, but you be inhabiting your body.
So the oneness that they talk about, the oneness, you can say the oneness is with all, which means all humans, all animals, all rocks, all trees. But the true oneness, if you want happiness, the true oneness is with source. When I'm in oneness with source, you can be as unconscious as you want to be, because I'm over here in my presence with oneness with source, and I know that all is perfect and that you will get to where you need to be in your time. However many karmic wheels you want to go, that's okay. I'm okay with it because I'm in line with source and I know that all's okay.
And that also shows that we have learned our lesson, right? Our karmic lesson is over. If we are non-reactive to the unconsciousness that is going on around us, then we've learned our lesson that we are connected to source, and we stay spacious, step back and stay spacious and let the drama happen.
And my daughter had this thing happen not too long ago, one of my oldest daughters, and actually it was a thing that happened to me. Somebody did something to me that was very kind of nasty, and it was last Christmas, and they all came up all these ideas, all these ways that I could get back at this person, which would have been, I don't know, it would have worked. And they were like, why don't you do that, Mom? Why don't you send them a letter? Why don't you send them this? Why don't you? And I said, because I don't want to sink to that level. And they're like, but they deserve it. Why don't you do that? And I'm like, no, I don't want to be at that level. And I don't want that karma. I want off the karmic wheel. I don't want to keep
Of action,
creating.
reaction, action,
Right.
reaction.
Yeah.
And that's,
Sorry.
ahead.
I was just going to add that she mentioned kind of what you were saying, that it's hard for her to not get involved when there's others that are fighting around here because it does affect her. But then she kind of made her own realization that that's her karma that she's still having to deal with, that she has to, that's her presence practice that she needs to work on, being in that and not being reactive. But she had mentioned that, so I wanted to bring that up.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, April. We're joined by Michelle, our fellow member. Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much. Good evening. I'm going to post the question again, Michelle, if you want to read it. Kelly, you want to go ahead and answer this question? I knew Eileen's answer would be short, so the long answer, I waited for the long answer towards the end.
I have long answers?
Yes, always, always.
Karma is an interesting word. It's something that is used an awful lot. And in the West particularly, we've gotten into the habit of associating it with the lessons that we are learning on our journey. The lessons that we are going through, the path, the growth of awareness that we are going through is a reflection of our karma. Our karma has to do with how we use our awareness, how we actually choose to be present, how we actually choose to be emotionally responsible and aware of our patterns and aware of our programming. You can basically say that our programming is our karma, and the situations that we co-create with others are the reflection of that space and that energy that we hold within our awareness of our karma. So the first thing I always do, and have done every single situation, every single thought I have, and is a mainstay of my discipline, is I ask myself, what am I doing with my mind? What am I doing with my thoughts? Anyone external outside of us is operating according to their programming, like a robot, especially if they're unconscious. If you are dealing with unconscious people, you are dealing with basically robots who, while, you know, they might be family, and family are very profound learning experiences, you are still dealing with programming. You're still dealing with unconscious, unresolved, unintegrated, unbalanced emotional energy and the subsequent impact of lack of awareness. So I always ask myself, what am I doing with my mind? Why am I doing what I'm doing with my mind? Why do I feel this way? Why do I believe this? Why am I feeling this way about this person or this situation? How does that reflect backwards into me about what I am doing with my mind? And I also have to understand that some of the pieces of karma, some of the mechanics, the way that things actually fit together perceptually, are really, really important to understand. Primary among them is the concept of duality. And duality is not about good and bad. Just take that idea and throw it out the window, bury it, stomp it down, just cement it over. Duality is not about good and bad. That is the common basic misinterpretation. Duality is about the swing of the pendulum from extreme emotion to extreme emotion, from one side to the other. So you have these extreme emotions like hope and despair, you know, love and hate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is a key element to understanding what your mind is doing and why it is doing it the way that it is doing it. Because if you are still stuck in programming and unconscious of your programming, you'll be triggered and you'll be pulled into this fake programmed feeling. And you have to understand that. You have to understand how your awareness is working and what your mind is doing, what your programming is doing with your thoughts. and what kind of script runs rampant or is the loudest or sometimes the sneakiest and the quietest, because we often have these unconscious patterns of thought and behavior around family and those that we love, whether or not they are conscious or not. And so the idea of karma just being lessons or karma being about doing good and bad things is a trap that we have accepted in the West and in general in a lot of places, that karma is just about the lessons that we need to learn. And we really need to go deeper into understanding the mechanics of thought and feeling and form and function behind our programming and behind our habits and behaviors as a person, especially with our thoughts and feelings and how we talk to ourselves. The most important thing that I've ever done for myself is taught myself how to listen to my internal dialogue and how to understand what my mind is doing and why it's doing what it's doing. And once you get through that, you can get to the underlying feelings of attachment of how your programming attaches you emotionally to your patterns. So understanding why your mind is doing what it's doing, why you're saying things to yourself, why you want to say something, why you want to do a certain thing, and stopping ourselves from acting in a way that matches a lower vibration is an excellent point of reference for understanding the difference in vibration and the difference in choice of being pulled into drama or staying solid with our own alignment with source.
Thank you, Kelly. So it more is like also having the compassion that each person is acting out their conditioned pattern, what Eckhart calls their collective, and not too personal, not to say, and I love this about Eckhart, he never says, my father had an explosive anger. He says, the egoic pattern in my father was that he had explosive anger. So he's already kind of not judging the human being, I feel, in that. He's just saying that that egoic pattern is a collective pattern. How many of us have had explosive anger, right? If we didn't have the awareness, that is a collective pattern in humanity, is to have explosive anger. It's just that we have enough awareness. And the reason I find so much affinity to Eckhart, because I lived with a mother that was that way. She had an explosive anger. I used to walk around with like eggshells, right? When is this gunpowder going to go off and we're going to have like all kinds of drama? It's so strange that maybe that's why we are all so connected. What April was saying about her mother, my mother was that way. Like if you're laughing and having a good time at dinner, suddenly she'd turn around to my niece and say, why are you eating so much? You're getting fat. And like now this girl is storming off, right? Getting mad at her grandmother. My mother is her grandmother. She's getting mad at the grandmother for saying that. So the compassion that they're just acting out their conditioned patterns, and how much is their pain body attached to it. Now the pain body, once the thought starts, some kind of conflict arises, the pain body will feed into it and that cycle will start, right? What you're saying, Kelly, the thought feeding the emotion feeding the thought feeding the emotion feeding the thought. And that's why the awareness, self-awareness of our emotional pattern is needed. The pendulum that you were talking about, right? Are we at the loving kindness, compassion, gratitude, and humility, or are we in these low-lying, what Dr. Joe Dispenza says, we are stuck in chakra, like a second and third chakra, where we are feeling rage and frustration. It's time for them to like elevate their kundalini kind of thing, right? Raise their chakras.
Well, people are cut off energetically by their programming. Their lack of emotional awareness cuts them off, causes tension in the body, and tension in the energy systems of the body that keep us from aligning our central channel or our dantians and our chakras, and from being able to heal our minds ourselves. And people need to have compassion and love for themselves to understand that they need to look inward first and not to be pulled out or tricked into being pulled out and involved in drama outside of themselves.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kelly. Beautiful. And not to blame that it's this person, my brother or sister or uncle or aunt, that is conflict ridden. It's just a collective pattern. Have the compassion that it's just a pattern in humanity.
Oh, it absolutely is. It is, does not matter who you are, where you are, how old you are. The condition programming is a very real thing and is a part of the illusion and the prison that we're in until we learn how to step out of it.
Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you. Michelle, do you have something to say to Juliet, which was the question I posted? Do you want to contribute something today? I think you're on mute because we cannot hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was on mute. It's funny because today I was listening to a podcast. I think it's Essential Teachings that Oprah does with Eckhart. And so he quoted, Eckhart quoted Ram Dass, right? Saying that you want to know how conscious you are, spend 2 weeks with spend 1 week with your family and you'll know how conscious you are. You know, it always makes me laugh when I hear that because it's so true. So, you know, staying very present when those moments come up and just, you know, I've tried in the past to kind of like, no, I'm going into a situation or I'm going to be spending a weekend with them and kind of like, okay, prepare myself mentally, emotionally for whatever comes up and just kind of entering the situation, trying to be that presence, that awareness and not react right away, just kind of be there and be as still as possible. But I think with the years of like practicing, that piece of compassion to me is also really key. Understanding, especially I think with our parents, that they had their childhood and their experience with their parents and all that conditioning and all the dysfunction that and that they learned, and everybody's just doing the best they can. So if we can just come in with a little bit more compassion and less judgment, especially on this path where we all want to be offering loving kindness to each other and raise that vibrational level, so we can bring that peace into the relationship. And I've seen that members in my own family, when I'm able to do that, they're less reactive. So they already know how I see the world and how I kind of process things, and it doesn't happen overnight. But people that were more reactive tend to kind of diffuse before anything really gets out of control. But that takes a lot of presence awareness, and that's a great practice. You know, it doesn't happen overnight. You know, it's like a moment by moment thing when you're in those situations. You know, to make it your practice. The curriculum is there for you, right?
Art school, as Byron Katie and
Yep.
Gary Zukav say, this is art school.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. And the other part to it, what I feel is if we had enough presence power, if it was strong enough, we could actually just be still and the conflict would dissolve by itself. I know Parker used to say that, like, if there was a child around her, she went to somebody's house and there was a child around her that had attention deficiency, then she would just become still. Like she would sit on the floor and just become still, and you could see the child's behavior change, like calm down, right? So it just requires enough presence power. So the pointer is that we need to develop more presence power, that we need more of the stillness practice, that we need more of
For
the
sure.
Mommy, honey, Leon.
Okay, I'll move to the next question. Thank you, Michelle. So April, this question comes from our sweet and precious Lakshmi. She asked for her daughter. If everyone, and this is a perfect day for Kelly to be here. So here's the question. If everyone who is currently alive has had many lives before, how has the population increased so much? Like if every soul has lived in multiple bodies before this, then how do you explain all the new people? Is that a perfect question for Kelly?
That is Kelly's question because I'm not sure what the answer to that is. I don't know, because they do say that all energy that exists already exists and has existed. So, and I don't really know about like the new soul idea. From what I know, like there can be some new souls, but there's not very many. I also do know of the concept of souls or entities or coming from other solar systems to help Earth out. So I would probably lean towards that. As far as what I've heard, there's a concept out there that, guys, I really have a hard time with, and I don't know if it's true, and perhaps it's just because I haven't experienced it, but you know, there's supposedly this, oh, I can't think of the word. I'm sure Kelly knows the word for it, but there's like the Galactic Council, and they have like this spaceship, but I really have a hard time understanding why they need a spaceship if they're etheric. Like, why do we need a ship? Why can't we just, why do we need a ship? But that might just be my own ignorance. But from knowing and listening to that concepts, those theories, and then also my own meditations where I have been able to go beyond like our central sun and feel the presence of source. There are many galaxies out there. So from what I know, Earth has basically sent out this beacon of help, and these other souls have agreed to come in and help us. So, but like I said, I'm not as well versed as Kelly in this area, so probably he's better to answer than me.
Thank you so much, April. And what I responded was what I read in Seth Speaks, as well as Sadhguru says the same thing in his book Karma, where he says non-physical, like the consciousness, can, a strand of consciousness can be about 1 million human beings. It's not like a 1:1, right? That, oh, there's this one consciousness, so there's just going to be one human being. So the same thing, even Seth speaks about that, right? Because even Abraham Hicks, she was saying that she went to Boston, and Jerry Hicks, her husband, and somebody else, like the three of them share like the strands of consciousness that is Jerry Hicks and Abraham and this third person. I don't remember if it was her daughter or who it was. They share the same strand of consciousness. So don't, what I feel is people seem to think it's like, I'm one consciousness and I'm one thing. No, you are energy. So energy is what, like a stream, right? Like strands of energy. That's what you are. You're not just like one little squiggly line of energy.
That's the same concept as I had that issue when my brother died. Was, well, how can my brother's soul reincarnate here but yet be on the other side at the same time? How can, and what you're saying is an explanation of that it's not just, this is it, it's my soul and only my soul and I'm right here. Yeah, we're much more expansive.
And it's not even my soul and my karma, right? There's a collective karma that all human beings, each one has a little portion of it that we are executing. And as soon as we execute, like Eileen says, right, you end one cycle, it comes back around. Like you say, oh, I learned all my lessons, and boom, you bring out the next download of lessons, right? So Eileen, you want to say something about it? Thank you.
No,
Thank you, April.
I was reading through, yes, April. I was reading through the comments. There was a whole bunch of stuff on there. So I was reading it when you read the question, and my brain doesn't do more than one thing at a time. Well, none of ours does.
So the question was, let me go back because she has a second question. If everyone who is currently alive has had many lives before, how has the population increased so much? Like if every soul has lived in multiple bodies before this, then how do you explain all the new people? Like, you know, our population has grown from whatever, maybe we
Yeah.
were 2 billion, now it's 7.8 billion, right? We're growing more and more. Go ahead.
I think that I probably have some guesses, but I would rather not guess. So I don't think I have anything to add on to that I've necessarily read or experienced. Lakshmi did add on there. She said, so these million human beings must have had the same lifetime. I think she was referring to something that was said maybe when April was talking, but I don't think I have anything to add at the moment.
And I think she's tying it to if there were 100 human, I'm just going to use the number 100. I know it's the millions. If 100 human beings existed in year 1900, the same 100 got born in year 19, let's say it takes 40 years for them to make that transition from realm in 1940. That's not true. So that's a misconception as well. So I'll let Kelly speak to it. Thank you, Eileen. You want to speak to that misconception, how she's adding that if I was 100 lifetimes, 100 people lived 100 lifetimes, that they're going to be born again as 100 lifetimes in this life. That's not the case. Go ahead.
So this is one of my favoriteest, most
Perfect.
topics.
See,
I love-
she asked the question. I'll tell you, when did she post this question? Was it Sunday? She posted this question Sunday, and you are here. Look how she called you into existence.
She said she hoped that Kelly was here. I said, yep, manifestation right there.
The big thing about human reality is that we have a really hard time, although the general public has a really hard time understanding, appreciating, and accepting that we are multidimensional. And we are multidimensional people, beings. We are source having a human experience. April, excellent opening to this whole discussion, this whole question. And I'll answer your question about etheric beings. Etheric beings are still engaged in 3D reality. They still need frameworks to contain and transport vast information quotients, and also it's sometimes easier to bring things into 3D reality when you have a vehicle that can interact and phase in and out of multiple dimensions at once, right? Which is what humans are supposed to be able to do, which we actually are doing, have always done, except our senses are conditioned to be linear and mental and disconnected from source, that we often takes a while to open up and grasp the larger picture of being multidimensional. If anyone pays attention to movies and the direction that TV shows and movies have gone, there is a growing collection of information being presented about there actually being a multiverse and not one universe. And it's becoming more and more prevalent and more present in a lot of movies, like the Avengers movies, for instance, for crying out loud, you know, right there in our face, the multiverse. And because we've been so disconnected from source for such a long time, we have forgotten a lot of the ancient knowledge about how we are multidimensional and how we can exist in hundreds of dimensions at once, if not thousands. You know, what we're used to is like plunk, 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 one key on the piano, plunk, 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 when there are all these other keys that we can access and engage, making contact with and connecting with, if we learn how to play the music. And the concept of accessing this information has been under attack for a really, really, really long time. And this is also one of the reasons why so many souls keep coming to this planet and this solar system to engage, so as to build up that balance and that momentum against the restriction of information that has been imposed on this solar system and this planet, to reawaken the planet, to help everyone reawaken, and the planets, our star in our solar system, and to help everyone realign with the galactic center. Now there's this is like a whole can of worms, huge, massive can of worms. And Poonam, I completely agree with you in terms of what you said about people being able to be more than one person and incarnating and embodying in more than one place as more than one person at the same time. I've encountered a few people in my life where the soul recognition was astounding, where it felt like I had known this person not for like 20, 30 years, but literally thousands of years, where I literally felt like I could see my past embodiments with this person like bubbles on a string. Whenever I was around them, it'd be like one of these little things in my visual awareness of being, wow, that's neat. It's like, what's going on over there? It's just like the connection at a soul level and the expression of spirit and source has been constrained down to this idea of linear time. And linear time exists only in the third dimension. Only in the third dimension. It does not exist in the first dimension or the second dimension. In the elemental realms, there's no such thing. And we already know that the fourth dimension exists, right? Time. And we are so unused to feeling. We are so conditioned to not feel, to not go inside, that we have completely forgotten that entire access to everything of source is within us, in our hearts. So we get stuck on these linear definitions to constrain our perceptual reality of everything being a straight line. So when we get into actually listening to the cosmic ocean, actually getting past our limited five senses, and our five senses are limited. They're, again, our programming to not feel, to be cut off, to lock down when we feel anything that is beyond our level of information. You know, our defense mechanisms come up and go, oh, no, we're going to go look over at the shiny stuff because that's safer, right? You know, there are civilizations out there that have, I mean, good gravy. There's so much that I could talk about on this one subject. Oh my God. We get into quantum physics. We get into ancient civilizations.
I have another question after, like, supporting that question. So if you want to stop, I'll ask her other question too.
I'll just break it down really simply.
Okay.
At the very least, there are over 300 dimensions that us as humans are actively engaged in at this very moment. And every one of us has at least 144, if not 144,000 other expressions of reality that we are connected to at one moment. I'll just leave it there.
Beautiful. Thank you. And that's why Dr. Joe Dispenza says this infinite in the unknown, the infinite possibilities, because they're infinite universes. So if, and you know, we get so stuck in the 3D world of, oh, I'm this race and I'm this not wealthy. But do you realize in another, like, or the gender that I'm female? I may be a male and like tremendously wealthy in another universe, in the same parallel universe. And that's what even Seth says in Seth Speaks in Nature of Personal Reality. He says, you're in 7 dimensions, you're in 7 lifetimes at the same time. So who are you? Are you a king or a queen in the other lifetime? And just because you're stuck with this identification, and that's why Eckhart's single most vital step is learn to disidentify from your mind. The moment we disidentify, we discover the multidimensionality of who we are. So thank you. Michelle, do you have something to say about this, or you want me to ask the next question?
I think ask the next question because I have no, honestly, this is not my realm. This is not
Great.
my wheel. So
Great. Thank you. So April, her subsequent question is the same. So I gave her this answer, right? That it could be the same non-physical entity is like a million humans, right? So she says, if the same non-physical is the vibrational energy of 10 to 20 people, then all of them would have had the same lifetime, right? Maybe 100 lifetimes ago. I would look at, so Vedic belief is different, she says. They believe animals and plants are having human life and vice versa. So she's asking about transmigration. So if you want to speak about that. Thank you.
It is my understanding that we don't do that, that you don't go back. You don't go be a plant or be a dolphin. There are different elements. It's different realms. It's different dimensions of energy, different frequency, vibration. Now, there is a theory out there that I do know that there is a theory out there that says, I think if you spoke with this about this, Poonam, that you have to be, you have to go through and understand what it's like to be the rock, and then you have to go through and understand what it's like to be, the bug, and then the animal. I think you mentioned that one time. I don't remember if you did. But as far as my understanding is, no, we don't regress energetically and go back to. And I don't know that each one of them would have the exact same life, live the exact same life or life pattern or in the same lifetime. I don't think that that's a constraint either, that they have to live the exact same lifetimes. I don't think so. There's so much freedom and free will, and Source can really do and create anything. My question that came up for me was, if I have 7 lifetimes that I'm living currently, or I have 300 of them that I'm living currently, well, I guess that wouldn't be true. Are we all on the same mission? Are we all
So you
after
would-
the same?
You would be changing your, and that's why the point of power, this present moment, is so important. Because as you change your present moment, you're
Right.
affecting your past life and your
Right.
future life.
Right.
So
So it wouldn't be the same. Right.
that's where we make
Right.
the shift
Yep.
from this present moment.
Yeah.
So her question saying 10 to 20 people, then all of them would have the same lifetime, right? Is not correct. Like, it's not a 1:1. Or these 10 people, it's non-physical energy. Like this person, this human passed away. They became non-physical. In the other realm, according to what Seth says, they could choose another way to learn the same lesson. They don't have to come back to Earth to learn the lesson, right? And I agree with you, because at the karmic level, a human is learning a different, the vibrational memory imprint on the human karmic energy is going to be the lessons a human feels. I don't think animals feel hatred and envy and jealousy and anger, and yet they go from what you would say aggression to death, right? They may feel aggressive, like a lion feeling aggression to go eat his goat or deer, right? But they go from aggression to maybe love, like physical level love. So they're, like you're saying, right, their dimensional experience is very small, but a human has such a wide range of experience.
Yeah, their lessons are different, and their lessons are more to serve. I mean, a tiger isn't, but their lessons are more a dog, a cat, even a horse. The lesson is, the purpose is different. It's more to serve. I think that their lessons are, you have many people that I've heard doing readings and stuff. I've had animals come through, and I've seen tremendous bonds with people, but they were there meant as a support element, a love element. Yeah, and I definitely don't think that we regress. And I think that, I mean, Kelly can clear this up for us, but I don't think that you have to live the same lifetime. I don't think that that's, part of my soul or my person could decide that it's not time for me to come back yet because of whatever it is that I want to achieve. So I have to wait another 20 years in our time, and another part only waits 1 year. Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's the same timeline.
Beautiful.
Which again is that linear, trying to make sense of it with the linear
Exactly.
mind.
If
Yeah.
somebody's thinking in chronological,
And I think Kelly really gets it, but even for me, it's hard to grasp. It's hard. The only way I've been able to really get it is in meditation.
and the way I know of it is because of Anita Moorjani and Dr. Eben Alexander's near-death experience, where they talk about as the spirit is exiting the body, then you realize everything is timeless. Everything is happening at the same time. There is no chronological linear time. In the timeless, where there's no space and time, there's no time. When there's no time, everything is happening at the same instant. If you were to use words to explain it, it's kind of hard. Eileen, did you want to say something about this?
Like the other one, I don't think that I can necessarily add anything to the conversation, but I am learning from it myself. So thank you. I'm very curious to hear what Kelly's going to say.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Eileen. Kelly, please.
The short answer is no. These people did not have the same lifetime. Exactly what April said in terms of how creation is capable of creating any limitless potential possibilities of expressing itself. And the whole point of Source having a human experience is not to stay stuck on the same broken record over and over and over again. The point of Source, us manifesting and embodying, is to learn and to grow beyond where we are. And my experiences, my out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences, have shown me that you are embodied and connected to multiple dimensions all at the same time. There are soul groups. There are aspects of yourself that people refer to as twin flames that can come into your lives. When people talk about soulmates, the author going, oh my God, like the whole Cinderella, this is my Prince Charming, or this is my Cinderella. It's like, no, just take that concept and tear it into little pieces and throw it out the window. The whole point of a soulmate is someone that you actually have an equal capacity in that space of that you share time, energy wise, to work on soul growth. Anyone can be your soulmate. The reason why people get stuck on it is because they're stuck on the ego attachment or their mental projection as to how they wish their life would be. So they're projecting into the future and they're attached to their soulmate concept. We exist in multiple dimensions all at once. Our expressions, the people that I know that I'm connected to, I remember them from past lives. I remember how their personalities are kind of the same, but their lives are completely different. They're repeating some of the same patterns, but the lives and the situations are completely different. And everything is actually an evolution and a progression along their growth journey and their evolution of personal awareness. And I mean, for myself personally, it is very true. Like when I was laughing earlier because what you were saying, Punam, was just reminding me of some of my first out-of-body experiences that I had when I was a kid, when I had asthma, and I woke up in the hospital. And I remember, I spent days remembering, the experience of being in that space with the woman in white with the blue gown with the white hair, and sitting on that park bench with her. And after I'd come back from those spaces, almost dying, it was, I was just laughing at myself. It's like, well, yeah. And then it's like everything kind of became irrelevant because I saw such a much bigger picture. And then I didn't want to go to school anymore. I had such a hard time at school. I'm like, oh my God, we're doing this stuff again. Really? So I had some conflicts in school because my perception of reality had been exploded into this much vaster thing at a really young age. So, every once in a while I would have to remind myself not to laugh at the teachers because they're, egos would be like they're the person in charge and the authority, and I would look at them and go, right. And again, it was actually really, really hard as a young person to sort of try and communicate with, my mom and dad who were worried about me. And I was just like, yeah, but do you understand reality? I want to have these conversations about reality, and I'm like 6, and they're like, you're too young to understand that. I'm going, now, of course, they look back and go, yeah, you're just like that different. It was, the connection with source and the spaces, like this is one of the reasons why I love talking about this stuff and love sharing, is understanding that you are so much more than your 3D reality. You are connected to source, even if you are completely unconscious of it. And even if a person is going through life completely unconscious of their multidimensionality and their connection to all these other levels of existence, that is their choice. That is their soul contract with themselves. That is, like, they are still experiencing, they are still here to help and to experience the growth on this planet that is happening right now. And that's where my level of love and compassion for the human race is. I just look at all of the logistics of having all of these souls and all of this soul energy on this planet, all wanting to evolve all at the same time, and just go, wow, right? Okay, who's the project manager on this one? Who gets the Oscar? What's going on? Wow. I mean, humans are amazing. I do feel a lot of disappointment sometimes with, encountering unconscious people. But again, it's always that learning experience, and especially when it's, family members or something like that. And, they're like, have been some of my greatest teachers, and they'll never know it. They'll never know it. But feeling the contrast for me, like when you connect with source, and holding that space, holding that connection. The more you build up that momentum, the more you build up that connection and go inside, you don't have to say anything to people, like the unconscious people. You don't have to. They will feel the difference inside of you and will respond accordingly. And sometimes there's shadows and the egos will come out and they'll want to control you because they can't take the fact that you feel so different. And other people will run for the hills. And some people will go, wow, you're sparkly. Can we talk? You know, what's going on? What's going on in your town? So this, you know, it's, you know, humans are so amazing. Humanity as a whole is so amazing that we're all deciding to go through this collective learning experience all together, where some of us, and this is one of the things that I wanted to say in along this line of, you know, multidimensionality, is that one of the reasons why there are people that keep getting born is because the more that people anchor their own light, anchor love, the more room they need to express it. So they will build a bigger family, a bigger love family, a bigger soul family. And this is one of the reasons why we have so many people on this planet, is because so many people have actually evolved and grown in their light that they literally need more rooms in the house to house all of that information. So creation is coming through people and creating bigger soul families, because there's so much love and so much light coming onto the planet. Even though, you know, what's going on out in the world right now doesn't seem like it, but the reason why stuff's going on the way it is because things are finally crashing, because there is so much love and there's so much light that has been brought onto this planet that it's game over. So
Kelly, you just gave the ultimate answer as to why I have 5 children.
take it.
That is going to be my reason from this point on. I have so much light love that I
Seriously though,
Wanted 5
yeah.
children.
You know, honestly, April, like honestly, the strength that you have in you is beautiful. You have 5 kids. That's amazing. I mean, you know, my partner has 4. I don't have any. I live vicariously through everybody else, but I have, like, you know, all these connections to so many people. And I recognize that and I cherish that. And I adore being me and being able to hold my space and being as strong as I am. And knowing even if I never have a conversation with someone about the spiritual topics of reality, I am still sharing with them. I am holding my space. I am offering them all the love and compassion and light I possibly can every single breath. And I'm okay with them never needing to know or never asking or never having a conversation, because it's the strength of that sharing and being of service that way that changes the world. And we can go out and we can do, you know, external things, but it's that presence and that power that we have for loving ourselves and for being connected with ourselves, no matter what's going on in the external world, that really changes the world. And yeah, I mean, you should absolutely, you know, be so proud of yourself, April. I grew up helping my aunts and uncles with 3 and 4 and 5 kids. And, you know, now I've got 4 kids again. So I feel you on that. I feel you. I mean, everyone who's a parent is amazing. You know, it's just like, I know I felt I was going to go through life without any kids. And now I've got kids in my life. And it's just like, all right, time to level up. Yeah, I'll leave it there. My 3 or 4 cents there.
Aline, you want to say what you put on the chat? Thank you, Kelly.
Did you read it?
Yeah, I did. You want to read it?
Sure. I was just saying that, like, I'm trying not to laugh out loud while Kelly was talking, because we actually only planned on having 1 child and we ended up having 2. And last night I had a dream that we had another baby, and it is so wild because I don't remember dreams ever, like maybe once in 8 years or more. ever, never. And then that happened last night. And then you just said that. Oh, it's funny. It's making me laugh.
So how much ever we may say that there are too many souls taking birth, at some point consciousness can say, I'm going to withdraw, and this inflation that happened can withdraw, and everything can get destroyed. But it'll start all over again, because we've been doing this for millions of years, right? Death, destruction coming back, death, destruction coming back. So
Well, the death destruction cycle is actually new on this planet. Only a few million years old.
mhm.
So, but before we didn't need to go through the whole birth rebirth thing. I mean, if you look at the ancient teachings and some of the, even the First Nation elders that I talked to talk about, the time where we all walked around immortal, and we're all in balance with everything. So
I would imagine that if we were immortal, we were also unisex. It wouldn't be like a male female. I'm trying to remember the Star Trek episode. It's Transfiguration, where how many people know Star Trek? And there's this guy called Q, and
Yep.
he creates a world where they're like little lights, like the beings are just light, like a little flame of light. And it almost is like in the golden age, what in Buddhism and in Hindu scriptures is called the golden age. It's like we would just be light beings. We wouldn't even have this dense a body. I don't think we would have a dense body. We would be like lighter beings. We would really be pure light.
that's a whole other can of worms.
Kind of worms. And then I would, in the golden age, since it was supposed to be like where it's infinite peace, right? Like everybody is equal. Everybody would be equally wealthy. There wouldn't be this injustice, the wealth inequality right now, right? Like somebody is like in Africa or India is living on $2 a day or $3, $5 a day.
Well,
Whereas
if you go by the ancient traditions and the information about some of the past golden ages where everyone was evolved, you could way back before the split into 3D reality happened. My understanding is like people just manifest something in their hands. Two beings who come together and decided they wanted to share reality and understand reality through a sharing, so they would manifest a child. So the actual physiology of a being would be irrelevant in terms of actually being able to manifest out of pure energy. And again, wealth would be like that's sort of like a linear concept of externalization, right? So if you could just manifest everything in your hand, or just like look at a beach and
why do you need wealth? You don't need it, any wealth.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm all for that coming back, because when you start craving ice cream and you got to like think about driving to the store and like can I just start now, please?
Thank you, Kelly. Michelle, did you want to say something about this topic?
Again, not my wheelhouse, but very, very interesting. I haven't really delved into these topics much. So, but I enjoy the conversation for sure.
We go beyond Eckhart's framework.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
see. Yeah.
Thank you. The other part that Kelly mentioned was soul and soul contracts, that we would have a soul, like Juliet. I'll go back to the question number one. Juliet would have a soul contract with the family members that are conflict ridden. And the soul contract is that they be conflict ridden, and can you increase your presence power and deal with the conflict, right? Like my soul contract would be with my violent mother, that she needed to be violent so that I learned how to control my anger, because she would have passed on that condition pattern to me. So beautiful, right? So let's talking about anger and condition pattern, and the fact that conflict can be driven by the pain body. Summer had a question: are colicky babies that have absorbed pain body from their parents and the environment that they grew up, the family they grew up in, April?
Could be very much if they're, I had a client recently who had a girlfriend who was pregnant, and they were both prone to chaos and drama. And I had to remind them several times that everything that that mother is experiencing, that baby is experiencing. And I've actually had some work done. What was the work called? It's slipping my mind. Emotion code. I had some emotion code work done at one point. I'm aware of the emotion code, and interestingly, despair while my mother was pregnant came up, which I'm very sure that happened because when my mother got pregnant, apparently her mother, my grandmother, disowned her because she was talking to my dad's mother. So my grandmother, my mom's mom, disowned her because she was talking to my father's mom, and that was now her new mom, and she didn't need to talk to her and didn't need her. Well, and I'm sure that had some sort of effect on me, and apparently it came up. And this woman that did the emotion code on me had no clue about anything in my life. So I think that it could be that. It could be genetics. It also could be what they call is pre-heaven chi. So it's something acquired from last lifetime. Then we can add in, there's so much with the past life regressions that you can find people having physical ailments that are due to another lifetime. And then we add in the idea that 7 generations back of DNA are coded in our cells. So I can tell you that I did some history on my family, because my family, even now they're starting to say that it's genetic, but they were not. For the longest time, they were not saying that Crohn's is genetic. And I'm aware of the energetic concept as well, the soul concept, and I always said, no, I think it is genetic, because we've had a couple of people in our family die from it, and several people have it. Like, well, it has to be genetic. And I traced back our family, and it goes, there's a story in my family line all the way back to Germany, where one of the women in our family, I can't remember the story now. I would have to look it back up, but she got sick with some sort of stomach issue. And I thought, when I heard that and I read that, I thought, oh my gosh, that has followed the generations all the way down. So it could be the experience that the mother's having while she's pregnant, if the baby was wanted, if the pregnancy was wanted, if there was chaos between mom and dad. It can also be the child's genetics, the child's ancestral genetics. It could be all of the above, definitely. I've explained before that I have a daughter, Kelly and I talked about this on the side, that she was born with nightmares. She was born with them. And there was no reason for her to be born with them. And then I worked for a lady who was Muslim. I used to clean houses for a living. And she told me that her oldest child was very smart, but had a lot of energy. And then she said, in my second child, because I was older and I was in a different space of my life, while she was also intelligent, she had more wisdom because I was older, she said, and she was more creative. And then the last child, she said the last child is the calmest, the wisest, because she was older again. So I think that it very much plays a role in developing the child, the DNA, characteristics, personality, all of that.
Beautiful. Thank you, April. So does that mean that the abandonment was a generational pattern? If your maternal grandmother did that to your mother?
Yeah, it's very much a generational pattern. And on my mother's side, we are actually, we're Native American. So there's a lot of, alcoholism tends to run in
Addiction.
Native American. Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah.
that pattern too. Okay,
yeah.
thank you. So you're healing, you're the healer, you're the rebel without the cause. You and Eileen are like, okay, we're gonna break these patterns. These are the patterns in this family. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So that is really, really important too. If any viewer is watching, is that because we are gathered here in this Facebook Live Q&A, leave alone the panel members, the core group meditators, everybody that's listening, that's what we are doing, is we are breaking out of our karmic patterns, generational patterns, collective patterns. If you're changing, we're making the shift, we're learning, like Juliet is learning how to handle unconsciousness in her family, then she's the rebel without the cause. She's trying to break the pattern, which is so sweet, so incredible. So I love it. Thank you. Eileen, do you want to talk about the pain, like a mother passing on the pain to the child and patterns to the child?
Well, I don't know that I can add anything additional or different than what April was talking about, but I mean, it does happen. I've experienced it in my own family. I've talked about it on here multiple times. There are patterns that follow, and working on healing those from personal experience, I can say heals not only myself, but heals those generations that are coming after me, because I'm watching it right in front of my face.
With your kids.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Very
Beautiful.
important.
Kelly, did you want to say something about this? The pain body in colicky children and the pain body in general, because she had other questions as well around the pain body.
Sure. I honestly feel that April really sort of did a good job of covering all of the potential reasons in terms of the stored energy in our energy fields. Again, you've got, like you not only have 7 generations, like at least 7 generations, but you also have all of your embodiment histories, past lives. So there's a lot that is going on for kids, for young kids, before they sort of integrate into 3D reality. And children, respond to energy, first before anything really. So depending on the age of the child, and really look at that, and maybe, track to look for a pattern of when the baby is, or when the child is colicky, and if it's triggered by certain things and or events and or people. I know, that a lot of my asthma and my bronchitis and all my allergies that I used to have was definitely part of, the family patterns, ancestral memory, and also other things from, past lives. So there's always multiple things going on. And, sometimes kids just need to process stuff that's going around them energetically. and especially young children, babies. Sometimes it's the only way that they feel that they have space to express themselves, especially when they're really, really young. And the pain body, the what we store in our energy field, what we store in our, I don't want to get caught up, because we're talking about multidimensionality here. And the reality of what Eckhart calls the pain body really is about the multidimensional aspects of all of the information that we carry from our ancestors, from our physical genetic line, as well as all of our past lives. And she's absolutely right in that the pre-heaven chi that we are born with, the energy that we are born with, is the main influencer. And this is pre-heaven chi is basically what we collect from our parents and our past lives and fuse together basically into our soul contract for this embodiment. And it's also one of the reasons why I train and teach some of the stuff that I do, because pre-heaven chi can be changed and refined in the post-heaven embodiment. So in this 3D reality, in this embodiment that people are currently in, if they change the way they think, they change your brain chemistry, which changes your body chemistry, which changes your mitochondria and the telomeres on your mitochondria. And I think it's mitochondria telomeres. So you can change your entire chemical makeup. The chemistry of everything that you are can be changed if you change your perception. I should not say if. When you change your perception about yourself, your body chemistry always changes. For me, one of the biggest flags on the play when this is actually going on is stuff will taste weird. Stuff will taste different. It'll taste the same, but it won't taste the same, if that makes sense. Or, putting on my socks or putting on my shoes, like I know I'm putting on my socks and shoes, but they feel, it feels different. It's like, I know I'm putting on this raincoat, I put it on like thousands of times, but it feels weird. It doesn't fit the same way, kind of thing. So the pain body, and, Eckhart really does do a good job of understanding and expressing the understanding of how ego attachment influences pain body management, if you will, and influences what we are doing with our pain body, whether or not we are letting our pain body, our accumulated energy and soul path bog us down and cause us to lock down and stay in fear versus opening up. And I mean, again, regardless of having a colicky child or not, one of the best things we can do for ourselves and any child that we're with is to go inside and is to ask ourselves whether or not, what state our mind is in, what state our feelings are in, what are we doing with our own pain body that might be affecting the pain body of the child, and how can we be more conscious and more aware of that connection and what we are doing with our thoughts and our feelings, and therefore our energy, and how does that actually affect and support or not support the child that we're with and ourselves.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kelly. The other part, I think I've talked about it maybe in January or February or one of these months on the Facebook Live Q&A. So medical medium actually talks about, like, when we are going through the trauma, that there is a release of adrenaline, almost like we are being attacked by a lion, but it actually, you're sitting in your chair, like, or you're sitting in your living room where it is pretty safe, but you're releasing adrenaline as though you're in the wild being attacked by a lion. So it's too much adrenaline, and that gets stored as toxic pockets in the body. And the moment he said that, I knew that is what Eckhart calls the pain body, is the stored adrenaline. Eckhart didn't say it stored adrenaline, but the toxicity, the way Medical Medium talks about it. So cleansing helps, like physical cleansing, leave alone doing Qigong or doing breath work or doing meditation. So modalities are available. Everybody is more than welcome to find Kelly on his Facebook page and take up some lessons. I love Qigong. I mean, even Kim, not last week, the past couple of weeks, she had a presence through movement, which is a mix of Qigong and yoga. And we all felt like Louise and Lakshmi and all of us, Laurie, are taking the School of Awakening classes. We loved it. Like her whole session was a Qigong practice, like a presence through movement practice. So, I mean, I absolutely, and that's one of the reasons. The moment Kelly said he's a Qigong teacher, I was like, yes, we need a Qigong teacher on this panel so that you can promote it, because I totally believe in it, that energy movement is needed. The balancing of the energy centers is needed, and Qigong is a incredible way. Like, try it, take 5 lessons from Kelly or book. It's very inexpensive. The virtual training what is it, like $10 per class? And these are Canadian dollars, so it's less if you're US citizen or US in the US.
Like $8.75. Yeah.
Right? So it's not even that expensive. So I really highly recommend people taking it. I know Eileen and her son, your son has taken it, right, Eileen?
Yeah,
Qigong
and
class?
I tried to do it with him, but he was a little upset that I was interfering, apparently.
Okay.
So we actually want to do more. So we just need to iron it out.
Awesome. Yeah. I feel that balancing of the energy centers, and Dr. Joe Dispenza has a balancing of chakras, right? Blessing of the energy centers, meditation. He has a meditation based on that. But this is physical, like you're standing and balancing your energy centers. So it's a beautiful practice. Very easy on the body as well. Like yoga, I feel you're twisting and turning and it's uncomfortable. Qigong is not uncomfortable. Anybody can do it. And I'm sure, Kelly, you teach, if you have a physical ailment, you teach different ways that they can make it easier on them, right?
Oh
That
yeah.
they can practice.
I always go through modifications if anyone needs to
Perfect.
know those. And you can even do everything that I teach standing up. You can do sitting in a chair.
Perfect.
So, and there's literally like 0 impact on the body.
Awesome.
0 negative impact. It's just a win-win situation all around.
Thank you. And so y'all can look up the book Cleanse to Heal by Medical Medium, or find a functional medicine doctor, integrative medicine, somebody close by. Get your inflammation markers, your heavy metal toxins tested, and you'll figure out that there is toxicity, levels of pathogens and toxicity in your body, and the heavy metal cleansing your integrative. If you don't want to trust Medical Medium because he is not an authorized, you'd say, oh, he doesn't have a doctor title in front of him, then go to functional medicine doctor. Don't go to a regular doctor, because they'll say this is all hocus pocus, right? Anything that we talk about here is hocus pocus, but it's not hocus pocus, it's real. Balancing your energy centers is really needed, which either presence practice like Qigong yoga does it, or breathwork does it, meditation does it, or you can cleanse your body as well. And that'll help your pain body. Anybody that has a heavy pain body and is throwing things with anger, right? You cook dinner and all your whole dinner is on the floor the next minute in your anger. So that is your pain body. Michelle, do you want to say something about the pain body and colicky
Yeah.
babies?
Not necessarily colicky babies. I mean, I think from what the panel has suggested, that it could be a myriad of reasons, right? And also, I've read a book on soul contract. So like before you're born, you decide to come in and you accept this role as the parent and you're the child. And so maybe the child is also there to teach the parent something, right? So, I mean, I had my experience with my son and my only one, but he counts for 5. I can tell you that. He didn't sleep through the night until he was 2. He has special needs. He has cerebral palsy and intellectual disability. So sometimes they're here to teach us, you know, I think that is definitely for sure. I remember when I was small and I would watch the telethon. Do you remember the Jerry Lewis telethon on Labor Day weekends? And I would see those special needs and I would tell Dad, let's donate. Like I would be mesmerized on that television screen. And lo and behold, 20 years later, I'm having a child with special needs. So I think, you know, as much as it may be an experience for that child, like Kelly, you were saying that you were asthmatic and allergies and you were experiencing, right? They're also there to teach the parent, right? So it could be that in utero, there's so many reasons, right? So then what do we do with the reality of our physical reality? How do we respond at that moment? And so are we tuning into the child's needs? Are we tuning into ours? It's a journey of discovery. And ultimately that's what we're here for, to figure that out and what we're supposed to learn here. Be compassionate with a child. Every day is a new lesson, so my 2 cents.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Mhm.
In the book, Nature of Personal Reality, which is have you heard of Jane Roberts? So Jane Roberts you've heard of Abraham Hicks, right? Abraham Hicks is Esther Hicks channeling this non-physical entity, Abraham. The same way Jane Roberts, is Kelly going to pick up the book? That's where you have the book, The Nature of Personal Reality. So Jane Roberts channeled this non-physical entity called Set, and Set says that parents that have a very logical mind, I'm paraphrasing it, very logical mind, and things have to be a certain way, right? They're very obsessive, compulsive, like this has to be. Then they're given a child given a child that has special needs. The child is showing them how to be spontaneous because they've lost their spontaneity. So just imagine, maybe throughout this journey, have you become more spontaneous? You see the childlike behavior from your son. That's the lesson he's teaching you. And you've learned the lesson.
I don't know if I've become more spontaneous. I can't say that's been my experience. Maybe more spontaneous in how I relate to him, but not in a practical day-to-day sense. It goes much deeper than that for me. In terms of being compulsive, and I come from my family background, right? This is the way things are, and this is the way, there was not a lot of creative parenting, it's just, you go through the societal, cultural boundaries or whatever. And in my family, there was never somebody with special needs. So very egocentric in terms of you are your role, you are your job, you are your, religion and all of that. And so I can't say for me, it's been to increase my spontaneity.
I'll find the exact excerpt and I'll post it to this Facebook Live as a comment. But it's something around that the child is teaching spontaneity. And if you're developing your presence practice, that is what you're doing, because the conditioned patterns are the mind patterns, right? How much presence have you increased since he was born to now?
Oh,
You're
I
talking,
can't even.
you're talking spontaneity in the fact that you must accept and adjust per what's
Surrender.
going on with the child. Yeah.
Yes, surrender.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Surrender,
that's-
acceptance.
I think I'm in, I don't know, I'm hoping I'm in the master's program of the surrender school. I mean, let's just put it that way. 27 years into this journey, and
Because-
yeah.
Just see how the human mind wants certain things. At 5 o'clock, I wake up, I put on my, I go use the toilet, I brush my teeth, I go get coffee, how the human mind, and here comes a child, you don't know when he's going to sleep, when he's going to wake
Yeah.
up, when he's going to.
He still doesn't sleep. And that's what caused, serious situation 2 weeks ago. So I'm still dealing with a lot of, issues of, just
Mhm.
what we think is typical behavior that we all take for granted. And, his sensory, everything, like, to process. I mean, he's in this world, but he has a difficult time addressing the day-to-day. Everything is overwhelming, his senses. And so it becomes, yes, and spontaneous in that way, I guess, and how I respond to his challenges, that I can see,
Yes.
that I can see.
Beautiful. This was incredibly amazing. So I am eternally grateful to all of you here on the panel, April, Kelly, Eileen, and Michelle, and everyone out there, Lakshmi and Summer and Juliet, for all the creative input on the questions. Infinitely grateful. Have a wonderful day. We'll meet again next week. Much love and infinite blessings to everyone. Good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye.
Bye, Michelle.